Hi guys, welcome to an interesting video on Wild Rift. So today we're back with another Wild Rift discussion, and this time we're going to tackle the topic of smurfing. So, this is only like the second video, if it even is going to be a series, and the first video I did on this one was about the dragon debate, where I more or less discussed the importance of dragon versus hero and dragon in and of itself. I'll link it up in the cards above if you guys have not yet checked it out. But anyways, we're gonna get into the topic of smurfing, which I do not actually see a lot of people outright discussing about, but obviously everybody knows that it is a thing. And right up at the front of the video, I will say that in case some of you guys were wondering, or in case some of you guys did not know, smurfing is not illegal or bannable. It doesn't go against the terms of service or anything. Now, the views people have on it is a whole different story altogether, which of course we will talk about, but so-called legally, it is technically alright. It will not get you banned, it will not get your account banned or anything like that. So, why do people smurf? Now, honestly, the stereotype of why people smurf is pretty obvious, which is that people, probably have a losing streak on their main account. Let's say, for example, the player is in Emerald. Now they go on a losing streak of, let's say, a 5-match losing streak on their main account, and they get very frustrated. They go onto their Smurf account. Let's say their Smurf account is in silver or gold, doesn't really matter. It basically has to be a significant amount below your normal account. Of course, technically, if you want to define smurfing, it's any rank below your normal account. So you could possibly have a your main account in Emerald 4 and your smurf is, let's say, in Plat 2. It is possible, but normally, generally, most people who smurf, at least stereotypically, they smurf to, of course, stomp people, and they just get an ego boost because they feel really good when they just destroy people. Like, they go 20-0, for example, but obviously they are versus people of generally a lot lower skill level. So yeah, so basically there is two ways to see it. Either you think it's fine, like you don't think it's a problem, but the majority of people, you will despise it, because no matter how high elo you are, unless you're in Challenger, there can be smurfs. So there are even smurfs in Diamond, in Master, in Grandmaster. Obviously, if you're smurfing in Grandmaster, means you're a Challenger player. Smurfing in Master, you're probably a Challenger player as well. But there are smurfs in the highest ranks as well, because if you already got one account to the highest rank, most people in high ranks prefer to just make a second account and get it to high rank as well. So there are smurfs in every single rank. Obviously, there are a lot of smurfs in bronze, silver, and gold. Most people create new accounts, they smurf in these really low elos, and yeah, pretty much every rank has a smurf. Now, what I will say and put out there is that whatever your views of smurfing, it can and it will happen. Now, you may not always be aware that it is happening. Now, there are some smurfs who are obviously not too good at the game, like obviously, the rank you have on your main account is normally reflective of your skill level in terms of both micro, macro, champion mastery, etc. However, there can of course be people who are boosted either, for example, by playing with a friend who is very, very good at the game, or just getting lucky in matchmaking and having good teammates a ton. Of course, it doesn't happen often, but all these scenarios are of course possible. So you can have, for example, someone in, let's say, Emerald 2 who is a jungler and doesn't even show up for objectives, for example. Just a random example there. So there can of course be people who aren't too good at the game that get to a certain rank, and let's say these people smurf and they can smurf in low ranks. Let's say he's playing in gold, he still doesn't show up for the objectives, and you couldn't possibly tell that was an Emerald smurf. But good smurfs who are good at the game, you normally can tell. Now, how do you tell? Obviously, the guy is gonna get really, really fed, but any guy can get really, really fed. Like, even if you weren't a smurf, you can get very fed and you can do very well. But aside from getting fed, generally there are these so-called Smurf champions that people like to play, that basically normally are very high mastery champions that can carry games. Champions like, just naming off the top of my head, not an exhaustive list, champions like Draven, Rengar, Riven, these kind of champions that are very mechanically intensive and can hard carry games when you get a hit. These are very common Smurf champions. And yeah, that's pretty much how you try to tell someone is a Smurf. But personally, I wouldn't really bother trying to identify a Smurf, because even if you know that the guy is a Smurf, what can you really do about it? He is already in your game. He's either on your team, you're happy you get a quote-unquote free win, or he's against the enemy, or he's on the enemy team. You think it's unfair and you get destroyed by him, but still, what can you do? As I said, it is not an offense to Smurf. So now I'm going to get into a very interesting part of the discussion, which is why I personally do Smurf and how I think people should Smurf and how Smurfing can really be helpful for you. So, the video you see in the background is obviously on my main account on John Mandarin, but I do have a Smurf account which I've never actually made videos on the channel before, because I want to create high quality content at high elo. So my main account is obviously in Diamond, so I want to have at least Diamond elo gameplay for you guys, whereas my Smurf now currently is in Plat. So that's beside the point. But personally, I believe that if you want to Smurf, you should at least be in Plat or Emerald. Like, what is really the point if you're in Gold and you Smurf in Bronze? That's just like 2 tiers below you, and getting from Bronze to Gold. Now, obviously, I'm not dissing anyone who's at these ranks and are hard stuck there, but getting from Bronze to Gold isn't really that challenging compared to getting from Gold to Plat, getting from Plat to Emerald, getting from Emerald to Diamond, and getting from Diamond to Master. Obviously, it's going to get harder and harder, not just because your competition is getting harder and harder, but also because the system is getting harder and harder. Like, for example, in Silver, I believe you only need 3 marks, and in Gold, you need 4 marks per rank, and in Emerald, you need 5 marks per rank. So, not even accounting for the skill level of the opponents you're facing, it is already just harder to rank up in higher ranks. And then also taking into account the improvement you have to have in terms of both your macro and your micro and your skills, obviously it gets harder and harder. So personally, I would say that you should only Smurf if you're minimum Plat. And in fact, I don't really even recommend it if you're in Plat. I recommend it if you're Emerald and above, but I'm sure some Plat people would like to Smurf as well, and obviously I can't stop anybody from Smurfing, so can't even stop a Silver guy from Smurfing in Bronze, but yeah. So, my main point here is that I believe that you should Smurf for learning purposes. Now, what do I mean by learning purposes? Now, as you guys know, I am an ADC main, and I play almost every ADC in the game. Obviously, I'm not a master at every ADC. I'm not good at some ADCs like Draven, like Ashe, like Akshan, but I'm really good at a lot of other ADCs like Lucian, Kai'Sa, Xayah, Ezreal, etc. But I'm pretty good at, I would say overall as an ADC main, I would say I'm pretty good at the role, and I pretty much know how to play all the champions. So when I Smurf for learning, I play ranked, of course, because always play ranked when you're Smurfing, because ranked is where people so-called treat games the most seriously. Of course, in ranked games you still have AFKs, you still have trollers, but it's better than playing normals, where people might just straight up be testing first timing a champion in their off role. So there's really no point playing normals when you're Smurfing. So you play ranked, and you use this opportunity to learn other roles and champions. So for example, for me, when I Smurf, I put ADC / duo lane / dragon lane as my last choice. I personally put mid lane as my first choice, jungle as my second choice, and support as my third choice. Then solo as the fourth choice, and ADC as the last choice. You don't want to get your main role when you're Smurfing, at least in my context. Now, the only time you do want to get your main role when you're Smurfing is if you're trying to learn a new champion. So a small example of that is when Caitlyn first released. I did Smurf and put duo lane as my first option, and I did try to learn Caitlyn while Smurfing because I was horrible at the champion. I'm still not very good at the champion, but I'm getting a lot better. So I was horrible at the champion at the start, so I had to Smurf a little bit to learn how to play her correctly before I obviously play her in Diamond Elo, where obviously I will get crushed if I play her my first 10 matches with her in Diamond Elo. So, but mainly what you want to do is you want to learn other roles and just become better as a player. Now this of course doesn't apply to the people who already play all roles, but I only play ADC, so I learned a lot of champions through Smurfing. I learned to play, mid lane really well, especially with champions that I already know how to play, like Akshan and Corki in the mid lane. I learned mid lane mages like Bran, Veigar, and Orianna, and I've actually done like 2 guides on Orianna. Getting pretty good at Orianna already. I even, for a time, put top lane / Baron lane as my first choice, and I even learned to play Camille to a decent level. Like I could like hook shot flash, and do the combos and all on Camille. Now, not the cleanest, not the best, but to a decent level. And I was a horrible jungler, but through Smurfing I actually learned to at least be decent at jungling, like jungle pathing, objective timers, ganks and all that. And learning these roles like jungle, for example, made me realize, like when I'm playing ADC in my main account, like, oh, I'm in a position where the jungle wants to gank me now, or the enemy Lee Sin probably is pathing from red down towards blue, and then he will gank me after that. So it really does even help you in your main role. Now, the small advantage that you do have when you Smurf is the fact that you have better mechanics. Even if you don't play the same champions, you should still be mechanically better than people at that elo. So for example, I'm in Diamond. If I Smurf in Plat, my mechanics on a champion I don't play should probably still be comparable at least to the mains of the people in Plat, for example. And if it isn't, then just play more and get better at the game. So you might have to improve your mechanics, and that could be a telltale sign. And also, you have the advantage of better macro and better map awareness, because regardless of what elo you play in, your skills in macro and map awareness will always be the same. Like, that we've just wiped out the enemy team, we shouldn't be going for a Baron, we should be instead trying to end the game, for example. Whereas people in the elo might think, oh, we killed them all, we should go for a Baron, but you see like a 30-second death timer and you know that you can end the game. So you do have the advantage of better map awareness and also better decision making and better macro in general. So the last thing that I want to talk about when it comes to Smurfing is one thing, which is to not get tilted and not get angry. Now, obviously, if you are, let's say, playing in gold and you are actually like a diamond player now, and you get wrecked 1v1 in the Baron lane, for example, obviously you would tend to want to feel pissed off, because you be thinking like, wow, I'm getting destroyed by this guy who's like so many ranks lower than me, especially if you get flamed by someone like for example, you're in gold on that account, a Plat guy flames you and say, oh, this gold is horrible, but you're actually diamond, and you will obviously tend to get pissed off or angry. However, you shouldn't get pissed off, because you know yourself and you know in your heart that your true elo is in diamond, and you're only Smurfing to learn and to improve yourself as a player. So why would you want to get angry at when you can just have a nice relaxing game and learn? Like, for example, when I first started learning Camille, my first 30 to 30 matches or so, it was horrible because I didn't have any Camille mechanics, and I would get flamed by my team non-stop. I would get solo killed by like a Nasus at level 5 in lane in gold elo, but I didn't get pissed off because I know that I was a bad champion. I knew I was bad at the role, and I knew that I was just there to learn and improve myself, and I didn't really have anything to prove. I was just trying to get better at the game. I wasn't, I had nothing to prove basically. So overall, that concludes my discussion on Smurfing and why you should Smurf for learning purposes and not just to stomp people when you're feeling down. So with all that covered, leave your thoughts and in the comments below. Thank you guys for watching the video, and goodbye.